Please turn your Bibles to Psalm 128. That's where we're going to be at this morning, Psalm 128. It's been an interesting week for me. Of course, the news came about Mary Taylor, and that always touches your heart. I know where she's at. Not really saddened, but there's just something about that. When death comes, it makes you a little bit sad. But it's always interesting to me, too, particularly when it comes to young people, and especially college-age young people, when they began looking ahead at what's going to happen in their life. They look beyond graduation. They're hopeful that they can have a job. And sometimes along the way, in fact, most often, I quite often say this, when you go away to college for girls, you're not necessarily just going to get a BA or a BS or whatever it is you're after. You may end up being married because you're probably going to find the person that you're going to marry when you go away to school. And I want to tell you, when that comes right now in the lives of our young people, probably those who've trusted Christ as their Savior, that's the most important thing you can do. You're on the threshold of the second most important decision you will ever make in your life: who you're going to marry. Let me tell you something. God is not the only one who knows that. Satan knows it too. And he knows that if he wants to stop the furtherance of the gospel, you see, every single generation, every single family is responsible for passing the gospel on to their kids. Every mom and dad have to pass the gospel on to every single one of their kids. And if they don't, you get enough of them that don't do that, and things are going to fail. And that's a lot of what this message is really all about. I didn't really have anywhere in here concerning the young people, and so I just want to say that at the beginning. People are coming in and out of your life now, and some of them you're really liking a lot. The number one thing you've got to consider: do they know Jesus Christ as their Savior, and are they sold out to God? Because if you make a decision to any degree less than that, you're going to end up paying a terrible price for that. And all you've got to do, we're in a wonderful church, all you've got to do is look around. Look at my generation, who's the older generation now, and you look around at the homes that they've got, and you see that they've raised their kids in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord, and they really know what it means to have a happy home. They're not perfect homes, but they're happy homes. And all you've got to do is check out every generation. You can even look at the younger couples that are in our church. My heart's blessed when I see what they're doing. Some have just gotten back from a mission trip, and there's all kinds of good things that are going on. They're passing on to the next generation. You see, Satan's desire and his one consuming thought is that he wants to stop the gospel from going forth. He doesn't want another generation to get it. Just stop it. That's exactly what it was all about when you read, in particular, the birth of Jesus. Christmas time's coming up on us pretty soon here. And he tried to kill all of the children so that the Messiah would not be born. Why? Because he wants all men to go to hell. He doesn't want anybody to go to heaven. So young people, be aware that you're about to make one of the most important decisions you'll ever have in your life. And then, all of a sudden, kids begin to come along. And if you think you know what love is now, just wait. I love it when I talk to Angie Adams, and we talk about the little Sadie. They're always bouncing her back around, but they're doing it even right now. And we love our babies. And I've said to her time and again, and to Eric also, can you even imagine, could anybody have explained to you the love that you would have for your child? You got to experience it. That love is so deep, that love is so overwhelming that you just have to experience it. And wouldn't it be horrible that here you are, you end up marrying somebody you have no business marrying. And as if that were not bad enough, you could end up being a church widow. By that I mean you come to church, they won't go to church. Then here you are in this situation where children come along and you're going to have anxiety after anxiety after anxiety. All because of one bad decision that you made in your life. I cannot emphasize this enough. Now, that's heavy, isn't it? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to start out that heavy. Those things are nowhere in my notes, but they're definitely on my heart. Joe said what I need to do is retitle this message and call it Happy Wife, Happy Life. Is that what it was? We could turn it around. Happy Life, Happy Wife. No question about it. If mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy in the home. That's what the old saying is. I want to start with one of my favorite illustrations. A lot of parents might feel this way. I hope that you don't. A census taker was working in the hills of Arkansas. Had to get down to everybody that was living in a house so they could get a correct census. And he walked up to a shed where a woman was sitting on a step. And after introducing himself to the census taker, he said, "How many children do you have?" And in that Arkansas brogue, she said, "We got 4." So, well, that's good. Went on to say, "May I ask you what their names are?" And she said, "Sure." And she said, "Here are their names: Eni, Meanie, Miney, and Charles. And he looked at her and he said, well, I'm glad you got 4 kids, and I'm going to put those names down, but why did you name them Eenie, Meanie, Miney, and Charles? She said, because we decided we don't want no mo. You know, there's a lot of people that get to that place in life. You're sorry about your kids, and all of us know heartbreaking situations. The drug problem is unbelievable. Not just here in Rockcastle County, it's everywhere. Everywhere I've been, it's the same problem that goes on. Journalist Roland Nethaway, he wrote an interesting article concerning the role of reversal of the home in the last 30 years. Now, guys, listen, because really this message is for the men. Here's what he says. Adults have always complained about their children, but today is a different matter. There have always been rebellious kids who would go off track and do something wrong, but they knew where the track was and what was wrong. Now, I want to emphasize that. They knew where the track was and what was wrong. Many of today's children don't seem to know right from wrong, and many don't seem to care. Thus, today's children are robbing, maiming, and killing on whims with no pity and no remorse. Now, I don't have to spend very much time to convince you that homes are in a great difficulty in the United States, in the world today. But what I am going to say to you is that we don't have to have it that way. You may be a parent who's struggling in one way or another. Generally speaking, this comes to us the last, when we need to be the first to know so we can get involved in your situation. But the bottom line is that you don't have to have a bad home. I don't care what's going on in the world. In fact, here's what I've come to believe. I've observed this time and time again. I'm not against Christian schools. Thank God we do have some Christian schools right here in our county. But I want to tell you, I have come to this understanding, no matter where you send your kid to school, Christian school or public school, if you don't have a sound home, you'll probably lose your kids. Period. I don't care what school you send them to. The key is the home. It is always the home. And so it's imperative that we understand that. Let's begin reading Psalm 28. We're going to read down through all of this, all 6 verses. Blessed is everyone that feareth the Lord and walketh in his ways. For thou shalt eat the labor of thine hands. Happy shalt thou be, and it shall be well with thee. Thy wife shall be as a fruitful vine by the sides of thine house, thy children like olive plants round about thy table. Behold, that thus shall the man be that feareth the Lord. The Lord will bless thee out of Zion, and thou shalt see the good of Jerusalem all the days of thy life. Yea, thou shalt see thy children's children, and peace upon Israel. Now, the title of this message, you may think that I somehow got stuck on that, happy, happy, but I didn't. Actually, I'm going to explain to you why I did that. The word blessed is the usual word found in the Old Testament for blessed, the Hebrew word. It's the word for happy, but the word is used, listen to this, in an emphatic plural tense. An emphatic plural tense. And so it can easily be rendered, and probably should be rendered, happy, happy is everyone that feareth and walketh in his ways, in verse 1. Look at verse 4. Happy, happy. The man that feareth the Lord shall be happy, happy. And then in verse 5, the Lord shall make you happy, happy all the days of your life. And so the one thing we get from that immediately when we begin to read this and we see where the emphasis is at, you want a happy home? Listen up, because here's the key to it all. That's what he's bringing our way. Somebody was talking to me this morning and they said, you know, I know you're preaching the truth, and I know that I need to be doing what you're telling me to do, but sometimes that's really hard. It is. It's hard. Because we have a struggle. We have an enemy that is out to destroy our homes, and he's willing to do that in any way that he can. But I emphasize this. I don't care what's wrong. You do the best that you can, and continuously, no matter how many failures, get back up and get back in church. You do that, and you can't be defeated. I'll guarantee you can't be defeated. Now, we're going to be looking at 3 different things, but I want to start with this one, the father that strengthens the home, because I believe the key to every single home is the father. I believe the husband in the home is to be the instigator of the love that goes on in the home, and I want you to know that it's imperative that you do that leading in your home. I had a conversation this past week with a young man who was really touching my heart in a whole lot of ways, and as I was talking to this young man, he wanted to know what I thought about getting serious, and I don't want to get very detailed here. And I said, well, that's okay. I said, I was pretty young when I got married. I was 20 years old, and And Donna was 18 years old, and we got married. Today, we probably would look at that and say, man, that's awfully young. I know that it is, but the bottom line is we really felt like God wanted us to, and we'd known each other for most of our life. Now, that isn't to say that that's what's got to be there, but you need to understand that this is imperative that you have the right kind of things that are going on, that you're in the right kind of people. That's why church is so important. Doesn't mean that you're always going to find your husband or your wife at your church, but listen to me. When you go away to college, the statistics show us very clearly, when you go away to college, you'll probably meet your husband or your wife there. And what if you end up going to a very liberal college? Now, this isn't 100% true. I know that. I know that there are times that you end up going to a college that might be a very liberal college in a lot of ways, but there's good, strong organizations that are Christian organizations. Campus Crusade for Christ is one of the examples of that. We got people right here in this church that have gone to Eastern Kentucky University, Berea College, and have ended up with Christian marriages and did not go astray when they were going to this. I understand. I know. It only emphasizes what I said to you at the beginning of this message. The key to the home is the home. And you can't shift the responsibility of the home off on a school. I don't care if it's a college, a Christian school, or what it is. That's not God's design. God's design is that every man would lead his home. Someone said that raising a teenager is like trying to nail Jell-O to a tree. I understand that. It isn't that Scott and Robin gave us a lot of trouble. They didn't. They really didn't. They were just great, great kids. Our home was a hangout. I can remember playing wiffle ball with some of the young men that are right here in the church that are officers today. And I can remember a lot of other wonderful things, how people used to hang out at our house. Someone else put it this way. If you have a lot of tension and you get a headache, do what it says on the aspirin bottle. Take 2 and keep away from children. Sometimes that's what you feel like you want to do. You just want to get away. Some of these ladies that are going down in the Smokies were kind of talking about stuff like that. It's good to be able to get away. As much as you love your kids, it's good to be able to get away. My favorite saying is one I saw on a bumper sticker. Insanity is hereditary. I got mine from my children. That's a fact. We look at Psalm 128, and the psalmist begins to give us his advice on the home, and he places emphasis here more than anything else on the role of the father that is in the home. Listen to me, dads. Please listen. Some of you desperately need this. He's not just talking about going to church, and you know I'm in favor of that. He's not just talking about coming to Sunday school. He's not just talking about coming Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. The point that he's trying to make very clearly for us right here is that we have to spiritually lead in our homes. It's not up to your wife to say that everybody's going to be getting out of bed and going to church. You set the example. And one dad was saying to me, well, my wife won't go. What should I do? You go. You go. You keep on setting the example that needs to be there, and you do what you know you need to do. First thing that's going to have to happen, the text makes this very clear to us, is that every man in his home needs to be loyal to God. Look at that in verse 1. Blessed is everyone that feareth the Lord, that walketh in his ways. Now that first admonition is very, very important because it tells us that the entire household is blessed by God through the father in the home. And I'm going to tell you, there's exceptions to this. You know that. We've got them right here in our own church. But the rule that you're going to see is that when dads are involved, Christianity in that home tends to stay right there. And it goes right on, and the kids grow up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. When they don't lead, it doesn't happen. Let me read you verse 4. Behold, that thus shall the man be blessed that feareth the Lord. See, the psalmist is saying that the father who strengthens the home is a man who must be loyal to God. He must fear the Lord. He has an awe and a respect for God. In fact, when the Bible speaks of fearing God, the fear of the Lord is a reference to not being afraid or terrified of God. It's a word fear that means profound reverence toward God. How does that come across? In godly living. Let's make the application right here. It doesn't matter what I preach. It doesn't matter how good our church may be. This is a good church, and I preach as strong messages, in particular on the home, as I know how to preach to you. You know that that's true. But the bottom line is that it won't do one single bit of good if you're not living that at home. See, even now when I make that statement, your kids see you when you're not in a religious atmosphere. They see whether you open your Bible at home and read it or not. They see whether you pray in the home or shift it off on somebody else or not. They see what's going on, and they know if you're leading in your home. Imperative. It is absolutely imperative that you take the lead in your home. And then secondly, he wants a man who is living for God. Some of these kind of bleed over one into the other. read an article from Focus on the Family. The article was entitled, "Believe Well, Live Well." And here's how it started. Pluck any man out of the church pew on Sunday morning, compare him to a neighbor who's still at home, poring through the 2-pound Sunday newspaper in his easy chair. Let's say the two are the same age and earn compatible salaries. Neither of them smokes, drinks, or plays the lottery. Both floss their teeth and collect baseball cards and enjoy cheesecake. Here's the question. Which man will live longer and enjoy the benefits of a stable home? You mean to tell me there's actually studies that do that? Yeah, there are. The answer? The man in the pew. Research is backing up what common sense has told us for years, mainly that churchgoers live longer, stay married, feel happier than those who say they don't believe in God. Now that's important. I know that you can take polls and you can take studies and you can just about develop them in any way that you want. Look around. That's why I say to you continuously, look right here. Rockcastle County is a unique place. It's a wonderful place. But just look right here. If we go out into our neighborhood and we look at our neighbors, every one of us know about situations where there's divorce that's going on. Some of you that are sitting in here, you've been divorced. You've gone through the terrible things that go along with that. You look down in our community. You see the drugs that are going on. You see all the things that are happening. And you can look and you can see that. Who are the people that are living longer, that God seems to be blessing, that their homes are turning out good, that they're having all the good things that God has for them? Let me tell you, it's not the person that's turned away from God. It's the person that's turning toward God. Listen to this. According to the National Fatherhood Initiative, children with involved, loving fathers are significantly more likely to do well in school, have healthy self-esteem, exhibit empathy, and pro-social behaviors. Children with uninvolved, unloving fathers are significantly more likely to use drugs, be truant, and have criminal activity. Well, let me tell you, that's been verified over and over and over and over again through one study after another. The one imperative that continuously comes out is the man in the home, the dad in the home, the husband in the home. He needs to lead. And if he does lead, good things happen. And if he doesn't lead, bad things happen. Now, I really want you to let yourself absorb that. I have come to realize, and you know the same thing, it really doesn't matter what I preach or how hard I preach it or how good the message may be. You can walk out of here this morning and shake my hand and say, man, that was really good. God really spoke to my heart. What lasts? What's going to last? See, I know that, I was reading that this morning, in fact, the parable of the sower, how it's, when the word is sown, Satan is very quick. He rushes there to steal it out of their hearts. He takes it out. You're going to get your mind on what you're going to be having for lunch, whether it's going to be roast or whether it's going to be chicken or whatever. Your mind's going to turn to 101 things. Your mind may turn to the funeral, the visitation we're going to be having later on, and some part that you need to play in that in terms of keeping the church clean or coming back and doing. There's something that's going to, and Satan wants that. Put it on their mind. He wants you to get involved in anything that you can get involved in. You know I love sports. I do. But I'm going to tell you, I got one major complaint about sports. That it tends to dominate the life of the people that are in it. And all of a sudden, spiritual things take second place. And I got to tell you, one of the things that really bothers me is many people that are involved in that want to lay off on what people who have a responsibility in those things, that can control those things, about not having ball games on Sunday, whether they're basketball or whether they're, by the way, Darren and I were talking about this, and I know he's been putting a lot of work in it. Upward basketball is going to be starting very soon. What is it, Darren? 6 weeks or so? Something like that. Good things have come out of that. I've been going to Kylie's ball games, and you can just see the kids that are really excelling. And one little girl in particular was really doing well, and in fact, she won the game against our team. She won the game, and she comes here to church, and her dad was telling me, he said, you know, I need to tell Darren this. I don't know if he ever did or not, but he said, I need to tell him this. It's upward basketball that has improved my daughter so much in basketball. There's a lot of good things that can be said about it, but I think the most important thing that can be said about it is it turns people to the Lord. We're trying to get kids to see basketball is a wonderful thing. Be as good at it as you can. Put all the time into practice that you can. But never let it interfere with what is far more important than anything else, the things of God. Our greatest role as men and fathers and husbands is not just to be a provider for our home. Now listen to this. I'm not the only preacher in this church. God wants you to be the preacher in the home. You'd be amazed when I am standing here and preaching and giving you the things that I'm giving you. Listen. You can walk out here because of guilt that you feel and be riding home or riding to a restaurant that has, I really love Bro Stayton. He's my pastor and I love him, but man, he was just off on that. You can tear down a message that I preached, bam, that fixed. Or you can walk out of here and say, man, he was right on. And maybe, Dad, what you need to do is to look at your kids and say, I want you to forgive me. I haven't had you in church like I ought to have you in church. I haven't lived in front of you the way that I ought to live in front of you. And I'm feeling a little bit guilty about that, and I want to get this straightened out. Look, you need to do that, and that'll pay dividends. We're to lead our families in the things of God. And what does that mean? It means we should not just pray for our families, but we should pray with our families. We should not just tell them to read the Bible, we should read the Bible with them. We should not just send them to church, we should take them to church. I know I'm preaching to the choir now. Why? Because the strength of the home is determined, developed, and decided by men, fathers, and husbands in the home. Now, the second point that we want to look at is this: the faith that shapes our home. We'll give you another survey here. When Mom and Dad, you've heard this. In fact, I've had probably more, when I've used this particular illustration here, it's a survey that's gone on that I think is very, very accurate. I have had more comments on this. In fact, those papers that are out there that, where's William at? Is he in here? Okay, William, you've been passing those out, right? Okay, would you be ready with, you got any more left? I think I had about 100 of them. If you do, we're going to be getting to that real soon. I want you to do this. Here's what I'm going to be doing. You're kind of confused, and I'm sorry about the mess up with all of that, but there's something I'm trying to bring across. How long will it take for us to lose the truth in the United States of America? On Wednesdays, I've been trying to get our church prepared to vote. This past Wednesday, I preached to our church why it is not wrong to vote for a Mormon. I really like what Jerry Falwell had to say, what Billy Graham had to say. I'm not voting for Mormon beliefs. I'm not trying to get a pastor. I am voting for someone who holds the same principles that I hold. That's who I'm voting for, regardless of what their religion may be. Whether it's a Catholic or no matter what it is, if their principles are there, closer to what I believe than anybody else, that's who I'm going to vote for. I'm going to tell you, you're going to find one major religious person after another, some of the most looked upon men in the country that are telling us, listen, this is a ploy of Satan. He's going to try and get you not to vote for this. We're not voting for Mormonism. We're voting for someone who has principles and precepts that we believe in. The other is going to come along later on. In fact, if we don't start voting in that way, it ain't going to matter too much what we believe because it's all going to be taken away anyhow. Recent survey revealed that when Mom and Dad take their children to church, 76% of the children follow the faith of their parents. Well, listen to that. I mean, that's astronomical to be able to have Mom and Dad sitting in church with their kids. Now listen to this. If only the father took the children to church, the percentage dropped to 55%. Now this is really interesting. If only the mother took the children to church, what do you think it dropped to? If dads brought their kids to church by themselves, 55% of them stayed in church. What happened when Mom was the only one to bring them to church? 15% of the kids stayed in church. Are you getting my point? I know we got single-parent homes here, and I came from a single-parent home. I know that. Look, you want me to preach the truth. You don't want me to water this down. These things are verifiable over and over and over again, and in particular, this particular one that I'm giving to you. 15%. You know what that's teaching us? God designed the home to be led by a Christian dad who loves the Lord and guides his family. And when he fails in that, there's a penalty to pay for that. I got to tell you, sometimes you feel like you're just beating your head against the wall when you start looking at these things. And of course, it goes much lower. If neither parent took the children to church, only 9% became active Christians. I want to add a word here. It's not in my notes, but I want to add it. These are for single-parent families. No matter what the reason is that you're single parent, some of you are doing a dynamic job. You're bringing your kids. You're trying to be both mom and dad both in your home. You're trying to live in front of them, stay involved. I can call them out by name that are right here this morning that are doing an astronomical job. I mean, they're doing a dynamite job in keeping their kids in church and keeping their kids in the things of God. Bless your heart for that. God will honor that. God will give you everything that you need to have by doing what you're doing. Now the psalmist continues on, and he describes the type of faith that is to shape our homes. And first he says this: it's got to be a committed faith. Look at verse 1 once again. Blessed is everyone that feareth the Lord, that walketh in his ways. That word fear, it means somebody who has tremendous respect and awe for the Lord. He's not talking about walking around trembling because God's there and he may just strike you down. That's not the picture the Bible gives of our God. The admonition involves, and it's directed to the entire family. Now, everybody needs to listen to this. From the oldest parent to the youngest child, everyone must commit fearing the Lord. Not long ago, young lady in our church, I just happened to be standing there. They weren't hiding it from me, weren't necessarily directing it to me. This young lady was talking to her mom and dad and knew that I was standing there and I was listening in. And the mother was talking about who this particular girl was dating. This girl looked at her mom and dad and said, "You know that I broke up with that guy." And the mother began to kind of comment, and this girl said, "I did it myself. No one made me do it." Now listen, I was really encouraged by that. I didn't know the young man or anything like that. Listen, if you can't get your parent, if you got godly parents and you can't get their approval, you probably got no business going with that person that you're going with. Who loves you more? Come on. Who loves you more than your mom and dad? Nobody. It takes an absolute fool to turn against a mom and dad who have nothing but the best that they want for you. And when you keep in mind what I introduced this message with, you got an enemy who knows how vulnerable you are right now. Well, there are so many things that are wrapped up in young men and young women that are in these teenage years. Their own self-esteem, their own view of themselves. Am I pretty? Am I ugly? You know, how come boys aren't interested in me? How come this? How come that? All kind of things come in. Don't worry about that stuff. Focus on one thing. God is the center of my life. God will bring me somebody my way that will lead my home. And by the time that I get grown up and I got kids that are coming in, I'm going to be so happy that I live for the Lord. And you will. You look back here, I'm looking at Amy and Harvey, and I'm looking at Angie and Eric, and Ben, you're in those teenage years, and there's Roy and Judy, getting another generation, Gary and Robin, and there's David, and let me tell you, I can keep on going. Look at them. Great lives. These are people that sit together in church. They got kids that love the Lord. How do you think that happened? Grandma and Grandpa passed it on. And they're here in church. Let me tell you, there's a great accountability. I mean, I can't imagine Danny being your daughter or your son and dropping out of church. I don't think he'd put up with that very. Angie, I almost have a temptation to ask you to come up here and tell me. We still remember the days down the old building when your dad had you under his arm and bam, 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 taking you downstairs. Didn't hurt any, did it? Not at all. Committed faith. Got to have a committed faith. Much has been said in recent years about the Ten Commandments. And we may never see them put up. We may not. I mean, we may never see the Ten Commandments going up in the courthouses, schools again. But let me tell you something. That isn't what's so important. And I'm in favor of that. You know that. Are they up in your home? And I don't necessarily mean you got the Ten Commandments like we do there, and here they are, center place in your home. Do you have them in your home, guiding your home? Because your kids know whether you do or not. Deuteronomy 6, 5 through 7. Just listen to this. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul and with all thy might. These words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. You know what all that means? This is to be a way of life. This is to be a way of life. This is what guides you in your life. Not just on Sunday morning, but it guides you in your life at all times. In other words, you know this, it's not the school's responsibility to teach your children the things of God. And I want to say this. Rockcastle County, we've got a strong Christian influence in our schools. And a lot of it has to do with people we've got right here in this church. You have good, responsible positions in the school system, and you're letting your light shine. You've got ministries that are there where you're reaching into the lives of kids that are hurting in one capacity or another, and a lot of other things that are happening. That isn't to say that there's not things that need to be done. Listen, I don't mind saying this, and I've been told this from a very reliable source. People in our church, one guy in particular who works in our church very hard, talks about being around some of these football players, and some of them that even go to our church use foul language when they're out there on the field. God's name in vain. Should I even talk about that in church? Listen, one of the reasons that stuff is going on is we don't talk about it. I'm in hopes that God will speak to your heart. Can you imagine? Other kids that you go to school with and they hear you out on the field cursing and swearing and doing the things that you're doing? That's not a committed faith. That's not the kind of guy that's going to make a good dad. See, the responsibility rests on the parents. It does. And then a consistent faith. And I want you to notice the verb tense found in verse 1. The psalmist uses the word feareth and walketh. And then in verse 4, he uses the word feareth again. These are verbs in the present imperative tense. And it means simply this, an ongoing, consistent action. In other words, it's a way of life. I love this little poem that I want to read to you because it really puts this in perspective. There's a lot of ways that this can be looked at, but boy, you need to listen to this one. I saw you stand bravely through the years and saw no sign of senseless fears. I saw you stand quietly through the stress and saw no glimpse of bitterness. I saw you stand prayerfully in grief and saw no sign of unbelief. Though you spoke well of Jesus Christ, I caught your faith by watching your life. It's always that way. Now, William, did you have any more? Okay, we got a few more that are left. He's going to, some of you already have this here, and I really want you to see this because I want to give you an overall picture. I wonder nationwide how many Baptist homes where the kids were born into a Baptist home, they're being raised in a Baptist home, and they stay in a Baptist home all their life. And then I'd like to know through all of the religions of the world, who are the ones that end up having the greatest percentage of kids that were raised in the faith, that remain in the faith they were raised in? You get my point? It's on the screen behind me. And here's what it says, the U.S. religious retention rates. That's what this is called. Number one, take a look at that. The Hindus have an 84% rate of retention. Kids who were born in the Hindu religion stay in it all their life. I want to say something here. There's a number of these that are on here, like Hinduism, that are in a culture where there's really not much choice. There's hardly anybody around them that's anything but Hindu. I mean, it is a cultural thing, and I'm not taking away. I don't really know everything the Hindus believe. The Jewish religion, that came in number 2. It's 75% of the kids remain in the Jewish religion that were born into it. Now, I don't want to go down through all of these, and so the Muslim is next, and then Greek Orthodox. They don't change it. Mormons. Listen to me. You say anything that you want. I don't agree with Mormonism and their teaching on Jesus Christ, and that's the key doctrine. What do they believe about Jesus Christ? And they do not believe that Jesus Christ is Jehovah God. I don't want to get caught up in all of this. You can't be saved and go to heaven believing what a Mormon believes. Point blank. But I'm going to tell you right now, Mormonism is something that is working in the lives of many people. 70% retention rate. 70% retention rate. Catholics, 68%. And then Baptists. Hey, look, I don't want to say and pretend we have a confidence and ought to feel good because we only got 40% of those that go out. I'm not so sure that I really even believe that, but right here in our own church, I'll bet you we could do a study on that. The retention rate of Baptists. Let me tell you, that the key to all of this is going to be the strength of the home. And you could do a lot of that. You can read down through there. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and read a comment that was made here, about a paragraph long, on this chart that I've just given to you that you've seen on the screen behind me. Simply put, unless we Baptists started to change these numbers, we're going to fade away in the United States. Let me repeat it. If we don't do something to change these numbers, Baptist faith is going to fade away in the United States of America. It'll take time. There will be a cultural difference for decades to come, but we will fade away. And then it gives us this note. Note that among the Christian churches, those that are more institutional or religious are not doing much better than the non-denominational churches and those known for looser doctrine. You know, sometimes what happens to us is when we get facts like this that are stuck in front of us, or statistics like this that are stuck in front of us, we don't want to believe them. We want to believe that we're doing a better job. And maybe locally, right here in Bible, maybe we are. I don't really know. But I'm going to tell you right now, the trend is set. And here's how you can always evaluate any of these kinds of surveys or studies that have been done. What do you see in our community? What are you seeing with your neighbors? What are our other churches seeing right here in our own county? Are the kids staying in church? Are they going to other churches? Let me tell you right now, I know because I'm dealing with this even at this moment. We got kids that are duping themselves and going to non-Baptist churches and trying to get me to believe that we believe the same thing. We do not. There are reasons why you have denominational names. They identify fundamentally where you stand. And I'm going to make a statement that I've made many, many times in the past. If you're a Baptist, marry a Baptist, a committed Baptist. And if you're not a Baptist, then you ought to be one. That's what I think. Let me move on to this last point. Sorry about that, John. Let me move on to this last point. The future that succeeds in the home. Newsletter, Facts and Trends, reported that every day in America, listen to this, every day in America, more than 3,500 families are devastated by divorce. Americans' divorce rate is now more than double the rate of 1960. 1 million children a year see their parents divorce. More than 50% of the children in America's public schools live in a single-parent home. 35% of America's children live apart from their biological father. And those children have a 300% greater possibility of a negative life outcome than children raised in two-parent homes. In the past 40 years, pregnancies out of wedlock increased 600%. The majority of children in America have fewer than 10 minutes of significant and meaningful conversation with their parents each week. You know what those facts say? Look, you can look at it and say, I don't know that I believe it. Then you twist them any way you want. They all say the same thing. There is failure in the home. Point blank. We verify it by looking around us. And why should it be failure in the home? I just read you Psalm 128. And you know, what does that say? I'm going to bless your home if you'll do these things. Now look, for you to walk out of here and say, I love Brother Stayton, but I'm just going to go on doing what I want to do, and he can't prove to me anywhere in the Bible I need to be in church on Sunday night and Wednesday night. I'm just going to do whatever. You do whatever you want to, because that's what you're going to do. I know that. But you're going to pay a price, and I will find no satisfaction in saying I told you so. None. The blessing that is promised, and we're finished. Read in verse 1 once again, blessed is everyone that feareth the Lord, and walketh in his ways. Verse 4, thus, in this way, shall the man be blessed that fears the Lord. Verse 5, the Lord shall bless thee out of Zion, and thou shalt see the good of Jerusalem all the days of thy life. You know what God is doing? He's pronouncing a blessing on anybody that will do this. Joe Fain's class are studying the book of Revelation. It's the only book in the Bible that pronounces a blessing on anybody that will read it. Well, look what you got here. Psalm 128, God's guaranteeing some things. Do what I'm telling you to do with your home, dads. Dads, do what I'm telling you to do with your homes, and I will bless you. Now listen, after all is said and done, that's what we're after. Look, when I put a message together and I'm going to stand up here and I'm going to preach to you, you know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for the blessing of God to be upon me so that your hearts can be reached into, because I don't have the capacity to do that. You know what every Sunday school teacher in our church is trying to do? They may not even think it out, but they're trying to do it. I sat in Sam's for just a little while. You gave me just what I needed this morning. That was good stuff. And I want to tell you something. Every single one of these teachers that are teaching, it's the Word of God, and they want to see it get into their heart, but they know only God can get it into their heart. Every song that is sung, we want it to penetrate the heart of people, to convict the lost, to set the service up, and to get people all ready to do what God wants them to do. But unless God touches the song, it'll never get in our heart. After all is said and done, we have a heart religion. That's what it's about. Now let's get ready for the invitation. Bill, if you'll get us ready for that. And I still want your attention. You know, this is not time to put your coat on and get everything ready. Just give me your attention. You know what I've taught you concerning invitations. There are some things that I regret. I wish we had more people coming forward in our church. Now, I'm not trying to get you to come forward for that reason. You can walk out of here in anger. But the day's going to come after you're at home with the Lord like Mary is that you're going to be glad that I preached the truth to you, even if you didn't live it. You need to understand that when you walk out of here today, you can walk out of here with a determination in your heart, whether you come forward or not. And that determination is going to be this. I see clearly what the Bible teaches. God has clearly spoken to my heart, and so I'm going to do what God is telling me to do. I, as a father and a dad and a husband, am going to take the leadership in my home. I'm going to do it. Now, you can make that decision. You can come up here and get on your knees and consummate that decision by doing that if you want, but just coming down these aisles and getting on your knees and praying isn't going to replace you really making a difference in your life as you go out of here. One more thing before we have the invitation. Like the young man I was speaking to before service. I promise you, you're going to get knocked down. You know how I know that? I get knocked down all the time. Not proud, not happy about it. Shouldn't happen, but it does. But you know what the difference between me and you is? I get back up. I start right out on the road where I got knocked down. And that's what you got to do. You have to do the same thing. Listen, there's no substitute to this. None at all. I don't get the person you have the greatest confidence in, that's what they do. They get knocked down probably almost daily. They get back up and they continue right on. Let's stand together with every head bowed and every eye closed. Father, these are your truths. You gave them to us because you love us. As you have with all of your word, you give us all of the things that are there to guide us in our lives. Well, Father, we fail you so often. We do. But thank you, Lord, that you let us get back up and go right on. There are times when you whip us for what we've done. There's times, Lord, that you make us take another direction. There's times when you bring things about in our life to test us. But in the end, you're the one who's always there. We love you for that. Thank you, Lord, that you love us. And I pray for our dear church and the dads of this church, grandpas of this church, that there'll be firm decisions that are made here today. It's never too late. Don't let Satan put that temptation in front of some dad this morning. I pray, Father, that your perfect will would be done, and especially in the life of that one that has never trusted Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Savior. May this be the day that they give up all of their efforts and realize everything that needs to be done has been done by your Son and dying on the cross so long ago, shedding his blood for our sin. The only thing that can wash sin away. And I pray that even now as I am praying, that they will pray, "Oh Lord, save me for Jesus' sake." Praise, the honor, and the glory, it must be yours, because without you we can do nothing at all. As the music plays, and as God is speaking to your heart, if you have a need that God has given to you in your heart, that you need to step out, find the aisle closest to you. Jeremy is here waiting for you this morning. He'll help you. If he's busy with someone else, I'll be here. We'll help you. But please, don't walk out of here this morning without doing God's will in your life. Come on, find the aisle closest to you and make your way down. Yes, Lord, I hear you speaking to me. I'm responding to what you've said. 596 is what we're going to be singing. It'll also be on the screen. Let's sing it together. This is your warning. The invitation is closing.
All to Jesus I surrender. All to him I freely give. I will ever love and trust him in his presence daily. I surrender all. I surrender all. All to thee, my